Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with the fifth and final round of a competitive Modern League. I'm currently 3-1, having beaten Gift Storm, the mirror match, Mono Blue Merfolk. Then I won against 4-color Death Shadow Zoo, and I just unfortunately lost against Bogles. So this fifth round, we are trying for 4-1. I won the die roll, so that's a good start. And this is a spectacular opening hand, so very easy keep. The opponent kept as well, so hopefully it's going to be an interesting match. Okay, I'll lead with Island and Cursecatcher. Opponent leads with Island and hopefully not Cursecatcher. Okay, so there's the Serum Visions. We have a choice of countering this thing. But there are just more valuable targets to try to counter with Cursecatcher. We can see what the opponent did with his Scries. Looks like he went bottom. Doesn't like what he sees on the top of the deck against Merfolk. So since the opponent played an Island, we're just going to play Silvergill. We didn't draw another blue source. We drew an Island Walklord. So swing for 1 with the Cursecatcher. Hard to say what we're up against with just Island Serum Visions here. Opponent's going to go down to 19, and we can just follow up with Mutavault, Silvergill Adept. I'll reveal Merrow Reejerey because if I draw a land, that's probably the next creature that I'm going to play. Opponent plays a Plains and just passes. Now, Dismember is good because it's a singleton in the main deck. And I always like having the 1 or 2 pieces of removal that I have in my deck, in my hand, in game 1. So I decided here, before going to attacks or anything, before playing out any other Merfolk, that I'm just going to try to Spreading Seas this guy's Plains. I did hit an Island off of the Silvergill Adept, I think, so we do have a second blue source. The opponent with this Plains is definitely representing Path to Exile, so we'll see what he wants to do with this. He knows I have a Reejerey, so he'd probably rather Path that guy, but he goes for Path on Cursecatcher here, which is nice because it gets me another Island. Okay. And then the Spreading Seas will resolve. I haven't made my land drop for the turn yet. So let's see what I draw off the Spreading Seas. Master of Waves, pretty powerful. I'm going to have access to 4 lands, so we'll just swing with the Silvergill Adept after playing our land for the turn. We've got Dismember up if the opponent has a creature to play. Well, there's a Colonnade. It's a decent target for Dismember. Well, there's another Spreading Seas off the top. I'm definitely going to go for that. Colonnade is an excellent target for Spreading Seas, so much so that it seems almost correct to leave in Spreading Seas in Game 2. We now know that we're playing against blue-white control. The Celestial Colonnade just sealed the deal. But it is correct to take out the Spreading Seas in Game 2 and 3 just because we have so many good things to bring in against this deck, like Negates, Dispels, Relic of Progenitus. So let's go ahead and lead off with an attempt at Spreading Seas on his Colonnade. No Mana Leak, so it resolves. Drew a Cavern of Souls, which is spectacular, because even if the opponent decided to leave up mana for Mana Leak to hit my creature, can't do it now because I've got a Cavern of Souls. Now, this is a really weird moment because I totally meant to play out my Reejerey. So I tapped all 3 of my lands. I guess I must have been right on the border between the 2 cards. But when I resolved my spell, I saw I still had 1 mana left in my pool. Which is strange, actually, because it was I didn't use the uncounterable mana. So if the opponent had a Mana Leak up there, he could have actually countered my Lord of Atlantis because of my misclicking. I 100% thought that I was playing a Reejerey. How strange that was. Anyhow, we're going to try to get in for 3 with Silvergill Adept here. Important to note that Spreading Seas in Game 1 doing an excellent job taking the opponent off of their white mana. The opponent is still at least 2 turns away from being able to resolve a Supreme Verdict because they need access to 2 white mana to get that spell going. They go down to 14, play another Celestial Colonnade. That's one of those 2 white sources that they need. But with Cavern of Souls on the board, I think we're just going to jam Reejerey. They don't even have Cryptic Command available. So now we'll jam the Reejerey and crack in with Mutavault. Try to do as much damage as we can this turn. If you can get your control opponent down to like 2 life and just lean on them with Mutavaults for the rest of the turn, and Silvergill Adepts. So we're swinging here for 11. See if the opponent has anything with blue mana to stop any of this. I guess they could chump with a Snapcaster, but they don't have white mana available to path anything. Opponent thought about something, but in the end, I think they're just going to take it. All right, so the slow tapped enters the battlefield tapped mana, potentially biting the opponent in the butt there. Well, there's that second white source right on time. See, the opponent's going to go for Supreme Verdict, but I've got a Mutavault Lord in my hand, so he'll be able to attack for 3 no matter what. Well, there's an Island Walk Lord, so I'm going to save the Master of Waves. Might not be necessary, but we're going to crack in with Mutavault. I don't think these decks play any Vapor Snags, so should be able to crack in for 3 in the win here. All right, so a very fast game 1 against blue-white control. Definitely was happy about that. You can see the opponent and I didn't even use 3 minutes off of our clocks. So look away for a second if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out of this window now. All right, I'm back for game 2 of this final round of this modern competitive league. You can go ahead and take a look at my sideboard, having just realized that I can show you guys this feature in the replays. It's actually really, really nice. So I took out 1 Cursecatcher, 4 Harbingers, 4 Spreading Seas, and my 1 Dismember. So that's 5. I think I took out 10 cards. I brought in 4 Negates, 2 Dispels, and 4 Relics. So that's 10 cards in, 10 cards out. I did choose to leave in my Singleton Echoing Truth. This deck in the late game often tries to win with Planeswalkers, and bouncing a Gideon Jura for the turn can be really good. Bouncing like 9 Elspeth tokens can be pretty good. If the opponent plays Spreading Seas, like 2 or 3 Spreading Seas on a bunch of Mutavaults, and then taps out thinking that they're safe, like to attack with the Celestial Colonnade, I can Echoing Truth all of their Spreading Seas back to their hand and then attack with a bunch of Mutavaults. So I like having access to the Singleton Echoing Truth, even in games 2 and 3, for the versatility that they provide. All right, so again, we brought in 6 counterspells, 4 Graveyard Hate artifacts in Relics, and took out a bunch of Harbingers that really don't do anything in the matchup. And some people like them because you can flash them in at the end of turn, but that's what we've got AEther Vial in the deck for. I took out 1 Cursecatcher just because it's probably the sort of 10th worst card in the deck because it's a pretty poor top deck late in the game. All right, so having looked at the sideboard, let's have a look at the opening hands. The opponent's going to be on the play this time. This is a snap keep for me. Control matchups are sort of similar to mid-range in the sense that they tend to go really long. So we're going to have plenty of time to draw into lands, and I love having this Relic early in the game. And we've got a counterspell. We've got some Island Walk Lords. They're going to have plenty of islands. So even though this hand needs some lands to turn it on, it's definitely good enough to keep, especially on the draw. So opponent opens with Celestial Colonnade. There's a second Relic. Not unhappy to see that, though. Again, I would probably have preferred to draw land. I'm going to open with Cursecatcher here, get a counterspell effect on the board, and also just to potentially do some damage to the opponent. We don't really have anything to deal with yet with the Relics. This is going to be the first one with the Serum Visions here. You can open up the chat, see what the opponent did with his Scries. Looks like he went bottom top. And tapped Glacial Fortress. So very slow mana for the opponent. AEther Vial was a pretty solid rip there because we can at least play it and it'll give us access to our creatures in subsequent turns. So the hand not really getting made very quickly. We drew another Relic, we drew an AEther Vial. Everything's developing very slowly. Fortunately, the opponent's mana is also super slow. So I will get to attack with my Cursecatcher. Let's see, the opponent played a tapped Celestial Colonnade and a Wall of Omens, and without any islands in play, this could actually slow us down a substantial amount. Opponent's going to draw a card. So both of us with 6 cards in hand at this point. Going to get to start ticking up AEther Vial, and a land would be great this turn, and there's a Mutavault right on time. So I think I'll play out one Relic, leave up Dispel, and also leave up mana to crack Relic. Being so constrained on mana, we don't need to overextend and get both Relics on the board right now. We will, however, go ahead and exile the Serum Visions and just pass the turn. We can't attack into this Wall of Omens right now. Okay, opponent's going to Spreading Seas my Mutavault. That's something that I mentioned earlier. Blue-White Control plays this playset of Spreading Seas now, which is quite good for taking me off of my manlands, but I do have an Echoing Truth to potentially deal with that later. Opponent goes back up to 7 cards, plays a Ghost Quarter, another answer to Mutavaults, which traditionally are super good against control decks because they dodge Wraths, but Spreading Seas and Ghost Quarters give the opponent more game against our manlands. Serum Visions, that's going to resolve. We can't do anything about it, but we can exile it on our turn. All right, let's go ahead and look at what the opponent did with his Scries again. Looks he went top, so potentially a little bit scary. Going to tick our AEther Vial up after exiling the opponent's Serum Visions. Another AEther Vial is actually pretty nice here. We are constrained on mana, and we've got plenty of creatures that we want to get out into the battlefield. So I'll play out 2 of my artifacts here. I don't think I'm going to be in any great need of cracking a Relic in the next turn cycle, so also the Dispel maybe not super duper important right now. Decided to pass the turn, playing around, like if I put a Lord in and attacked for 2, and the opponent, if he has multiple Wraths in hand, he gets some nice value off of Wrathing my Lord away. So instead I'm just going to end step it. So opponent slams Jace, Architect of Thought. And this guy can be really annoying against us because he can just +1 all the time. If we don't have a lot of creatures out, our 1 or 2 creatures can have a hard time dealing much damage to Jace or to the opponent. So he just +1 the opponent. So all of my creatures are going to get -1 when they attack next turn. Okay, opponent follows up with an island. On the end step, I'm going to bring in one of my Island Walk Lords. We'll leave this one on 2, of course, and just take up the other one to 1. Drew into a Silvergill, which is quite nice as far as, maintaining card parity with the opponent. I'm going to bring in another Island Walk Lord. I could also just cast another Lord. I would be swinging then for 8 Island Walk and could really just deal with Jace right away instead of, which would go down to 6 because of Jace's effect. But if I attack now, I go down to 4 with Jace's effect, and he doesn't get killed. But at the same time, I can't really afford to overextend. If I play out another Lord just to get rid of Jace, then the opponent 4-for-1s me with Supreme Verdict. So instead, I think I'll just attack into Jace, get him down to 1. Leaving up plenty of mana to crack Relics and cast Dispel over the course of this turn cycle. So Jace is going to go down to 1, and it would be quite nice if this other AEther Vial was on 2 because I could then end step another creature. But we're just not going to commit another creature to our board right now. Okay, opponent ticked up again. That was really his only option with Jace since he was only a 1 loyalty. And we really see this coming a mile away. Opponent wraths our board, and we can exile his stuff with our relics. Actually, I'm just going to cycle one of my relics here, try to draw into something. So there is that Echoing Truth that I mentioned. It's a really weird card in this matchup. I can get some tempo by bouncing this guy and making him cast him again, but I think I'm just going to keep this in hand until I really need it. This could also save creatures in the event of a attempted board wipe. I think I'm going to keep both of the vials on 2 for now, since I have 2 2-drops in my hand. And I'm going to play this Copter. The opponent has Spell Snare in hand, so be it. Opponent with 6 cards. I've got 4. Okay, there's a Serum Visions. Let's see what he does with the Scries. Bottom, top. Okay, so average. Takes up the Jace. My creatures are going to get minused when they attack. But end step, I'm going to bring in a Silvergill for sure. Draw a card and get another body onto the battlefield. Go ahead and exile that Serum Visions. And let's bring in the Silvergill Adept. I'm not going to bring in the Lord right now. Reason being is that I'd really like to be able to... Let's see, what was the rationale for not bringing the Lord in? Well, again, just not overextending. But if the opponent has a path, I've got Dispel. And so if next turn I bring in the Lord, he tries to path the Lord, I've got Dispel for that. But right now I'm tapped out. So probably better just not to bring in the Lord right now. Negate is excellent, but again, I need to have mana up to use my counter spells. So let's save the Lord for our turn, or for the end of the opponent's next turn. So see, here is the path. So we're going to get an island off of that. Sorry, it's taking a second to click through this. Island is great because it's going to give us access to 3 mana for 2 counter spells. At this point, I am going, I think, to bring in the Lord, because if the opponent has another path, I guess, you know, so be it. I need some bodies to attack with. Actually, you know what? That was an interesting moment. I activated the AEther Vial, but then in the end, I thought better of it, because if the opponent did have a second path, or even Snapcaster path, I would be left with no attackers for Smuggler's Copter. Much better to just go into my turn, bring in the Lord of Atlantis, and have counter magic up to protect the Smuggler's Copter when it attacks. The loot is so important in this sort of attrition battle right now. I'm going to tick one of these up now, and then leave that one on 2. Drew another Silvergill Adept, which is spectacular, because those guys just keep drawing us cards. So instead of bringing out a Lord and committing that to the table right now, I'm going to bring out Silvergill Adept. Actually, before I brought anything onto the board, I keep getting a little bit ahead of myself, but you can see I kind of did it in the game too. Tapped Relic to try to exile the path that was sitting in the graveyard, and the opponent let it happen. Then I bring in my Silvergill Adept. There's no path in the graveyard for him to Snapcaster back now, if he does in fact have a Snapcaster. So we do get to draw a card off of Silvergill. There's another Lord. Things starting to sort of shape up pretty well. I think I'll crew the Copter now and go to attacks with Counterspell backup. Opponent tries to stop me from attacking, but I'm going to lead off with a Dispel here. Okay, it looks like the opponent has a mana leak. We can't pay for that, so I'm going to go for Negate here. Smuggler's Copter is excellent in the matchup because it dodges Supreme Verdict, and it loots for us. So it's worth throwing in on these Negates and Dispels here. It's kind of nice having this kind of control battle with a tempo deck. So I won. Path to Exile got countered, and I'll get to go to attacks with Smuggler's Copter. Not much that I really am crazy about pitching right now. I do like having access to the single Echoing Truth. Fortunately, the Copter's not going to get to kill Jace. This guy is a real pain in the butt to deal with. I drew a Dispel, so that's actually going to encourage me to ditch my Echoing Truth. Dispel is just a better card, and we're not going to get rid of any of our gas. What Jace encourages us to do, since he makes our creatures smaller, is to play a bunch of creatures to try to kill him, and then the opponent just wraths us and ends up getting like a 4-for-1. Would have been better if I left this Aether Vial on 2 in the end. Okay, opponent plays a land, I think, and +1's Jace, and what's going to happen here? So yeah, it definitely would be good if we had this Aether Vial on 2. Opponent gets to play Gideon Jura, and I think he's going to make us attack him next turn. Going all the way up to 8. Yeah, all my creatures are going to have to attack him next turn. Opponent's down to 2 cards, though. So if we can deal with these Planeswalkers, we're not doing terribly. So I think this might have been the turn where I made a huge misclick. I'm going to leave Aether Vial on 3 here, but I think I might have actually accidentally clicked yes here, which is absurd because it's the same as drawing like Stony Silence or something, or Abrupt Decay for this Aether Vial. It really upset me because I had done really well up to that point in the game, and now I can't use Aether Vial for either of my Island Walk Lords. I really, really need to deal with this Gideon, so let's go ahead and just tap the Relic, make the opponent get rid of his Mana Leak. Just cast one of the Lords, hopefully he doesn't have counters. Tap the Lord to activate the Smuggler's Copter and try to get in for 6, which will... We have to attack Gideon, so we're not going to be able to kill Jace yet. But they're going to get shrunken by Jace, so Gideon will only go down to 4. There's no way for me to get a second Lord onto the table, even if I wanted to. I do get to loot, which is nice. We'll pitch the Wanderwine Hub, I think. Alright, so opponent's still with 2 Planeswalkers. Cracks his Flooded Strand, still sitting at 18 life, which is typically really not where we want to have control at turn 8 at 18 life. So plussing Jace again. Spreading Seas on my Wanderwine Hub. Gonna just cycle the Spreading Seas basically. Plays another land. Makes me attack Gideon next turn. I would love to bring in a Lord of Atlantis right now, but can't do it. I think we probably would have just... Frustrating. Okay, so we are going to tick up one Aether Vial and leave the other one on 3. Another Island Walk Lord. Not unhappy to see that guy, but just makes me feel extra stupid for ticking up my Aether Vial by mistake. I think I'll go ahead and, well, play one of these Lords. Tap him to activate the Smuggler's Copter. We've got Dispel up if the opponent tries to go for Cryptic Command. Try to exile something from his graveyard. Still has a path there. Let's see. Looks like he's going for the Cryptic. This is always such a great feel-good moment. The opponent even had the Masterpiece Cryptic. Trying to tap my opponent, all my creatures and draw a card. So 4 mana getting countered by 1 mana. We're going to get to attack and kill Gideon, which is awesome. We get a loot. Okay, creatures getting shrunk. They're going to be 2, 3, and 2. So 7. Gideon's only at 6. We get to get another island into our graveyard, making our top decks better for next turn. You know, at this point, I had a choice of keeping the island in my hand as potential fodder to loot away with the Smuggler's Copter, but if the opponent's holding onto a Snapcaster, Path to Exile and Cryptic Command are both really, really strong targets for Snapcaster to flashback. So I'm going to play the island and exile my Relic now. I get to draw an extra card. Looks like I thought about it for a little while. It's taking quite a bit to click through here. And I get to draw something. The Master of Waves is excellent because I can end step him. If the opponent doesn't have the Wrath, we'll be that much more likely to just win next turn. Cracks his Flooded Strand. Gets a basic Plains, looked like. It's weird. Okay, opponent's going for some card value with Jace since he knows that he can't defend him anymore. Okay, so Path in one pile, Spreading Seas and Wall of Omens in the other pile. If you guys are the control player, which pile do you take? This pile is really appealing because you get 2 cards and then you get to draw 2 more cards, so it's effectively drawing 4 cards. But against creatures, all you want are paths, right? I just emptied this guy's graveyard. If he's got a Snapcaster, he gets to cast this thing twice. But I think the opponent took the card advantage route, which I'm pretty sure was the wrong decision. Yep, he took Spreading Seas and Wall of Omens. So Spreading Seas going to start off just cycling, doesn't do anything for him. He doesn't care about Devotion. 4 more mana for Supreme Verdict. Well, you know, kind of saw that coming. So it's going to resolve, but we do get to end step a Master of Waves. We could have end stepped a Master of Waves and a Lord of Atlantis. Plays a Flooded Strand, and I think we're going to see that Wall of Omens now. Okay, there it is. We're going to bring in our Master of Waves. Fortunately, it's only going to bring 1 token with him. I'll leave these Aether Vials exactly where they are. Go to my draw step. And another Master of Waves is pretty solid. Going to crew the Smuggler's Copter. At this point, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to actually play a Lord or not. But in the end, I decided to, so I could push extra damage. In which case, let's see, would it have made a difference if I crewed with the Lord? Probably not, because the opponent could just block the Elemental. So I'm going to play the Lord after the fact. Again, it doesn't affect the combat math really here. But I am going to get in for 6 here. I'm going to get rid of this Jace finally. Swing for 3 and 3. We get to loot. I have a feeling I'm not going to pitch my Master of Waves. Man, we're drawing super well right now. Now, this might have been a case where it would have been correct to not loot, because even if I saw something like a Negate, which is like one of the best cards we can possibly draw in this matchup, I probably would have thrown the Negate in the graveyard, just because Master of Waves is so good in this spot. And if I didn't do that loot, I would have drawn that Master of the Pearl Trident, which would have been quite good. Opponent's down to 3 cards. He's going to cycle a Spreading Seas. And then, what's he got? He cycled the land, Irrigated Farmland. Looks like he's passing the turn here. So we'll end step Master of Waves. It's going to make our elementals bigger. And we'll leave our Aether Vials alone. We've definitely got a lethal attack here, but he could very easily have like a Cryptic Command. Drew an island. Copter might come in handy here. So I'm going to use... Well, let's see. Actually, what I decided to do here was if he has the Cryptic Command to tap the team, I could still... Actually, no, that doesn't work. I did think about this during the match, though. If the opponent taps the team, I could then try to equip the Smuggler's Copter, but all my creatures would be tapped. However, if I had a creature in hand, I could vial it in and then activate the Smuggler's Copter to try to just push some damage and get a loot. But without a creature in hand, it was correct to probably tap the Lord of Atlantis to crew the Smuggler's Copter. So slight misstep there. But I'm just getting with everybody here. He doesn't have a path in the graveyard, but he just cast a Condemn on the Lord of Atlantis. Now, if he has nothing else in hand, I'm still swinging for 10, 2 and 2. Opponent's probably going to take... I think I had lethal if I actually equipped the Smuggler's Copter. If he gets rid of... Actually, these are all still 3/2s because he's not killing one of my Masters of Waves. So 3/2s, that's 15 power there. So let's just go ahead and say okay to this. Probably would have been... I was just thinking if he pathed, or rather condemned one of the Master of Waves, then I'm getting in for 3, and then these all become 2/1s. Still have a Lord, though. Doesn't have too many great choices. So blocks a 3/2, and he's still taking 12 plus 4, so 16. Okay, so we got pretty fortunate and drew good stuff. We see the opponent drew all 4 Spreading Seas. Smuggler's Copter continuing to prove its value in the deck. Again, I trimmed a Reejerey and a Master of Waves to run 2 of these guys, so I think I have 26 Merfolk and 2 Copters and 2 Kiras. Now, Kira's been excellent, and Copter has been excellent. So I really recommend anybody who hasn't been trying Smuggler's Copter to give it a shot. I think it's really excellent. I mean, Reejerey and Master of Waves are excellent too, but I still have 3 of each of those guys. They're still doing a great job in the deck. But Smuggler's Copter gives us so many very interesting lines against so many decks. As a 3/3 flyer, it gives us a ton of defense against Affinity, which is a really big deal, actually. Another thing that I don't know if everybody realizes is that Smuggler's Copter is an additional blocker for Etch Champion against Affinity because it's colorless. So Smuggler's Copter gives us extra game against a lot of difficult matchups. Blue-white control is one of them because it dodges Supreme Verdicts. So I ended up going 4-1 in this league. Been doing pretty well. Still haven't gotten a 5-0, but I'm going to keep trying. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the matchup. I'll look one more time here at my sideboard for the match. I took out 4 Harbingers and a Cursecatcher, and took out my 1 Dismember and my 4 Spreading Seas. So 10 cards out, 4 Negates, 2 Dispels, 4 Relic of Progenitus, 10 cards in. All of those cards are really high impact against blue-white control. And against a lot of other decks. So I'm feeling really, really good with my build right now. Please have a look at the video description for my exact list. Yeah, and let me know your guys' thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys the next time around. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Bye-bye.